Good afternoon, everybody. My name is miahtheking, and being an adult is basically just walking around wondering what you're forgetting. Now then, today we're taking a look at a game just released on Steam called Beneath Oresa, or beneathoresa. I don't know how to pronounce that. Could be either or. Anyway, this is a roguelike deck building game in early access, developed by Broken Spear Inc. and published by Broken Spear Inc. Never heard of them? Me neither. So it looks like an indie company, and this game is selling for $25 American. Well, let's dive right in here and find out if this game is worth our time and money, shall we? Now it's a roguelike, right? I'm sure we all know what those are like, but just in case you don't, let me explain. Normally, in a roguelike game, you have a path to follow, or a quest to follow, or some story, or whatever, and when you die, you end up going back to the very beginning and starting all over again. That's pretty much every roguelike. But most roguelikes also give you some rare permanent boost or levels, so that it gets a little bit easier after each time, so that way it helps you get past these unforgiving dungeons. The official definition is a dungeon crawler through procedurally generated levels with turn-based gameplay, grid-based movement, and permanent death of the player character. Got it? Good. Now I hate roguelike games. I can't stand them. So why am I reviewing it, you might be asking yourself? Or asking me? Or whoever? Well, I can still recognize a good game from a bad one, regardless of whether or not it's my type or not. Alright? So for this one, in this game, you're just running through a dungeon. And that's it. There is absolutely no story as of this moment. Now, yes, the game is in early access, but that was one of the dumbest things they could have done. I mean, is there seriously even a single roguelike dungeon crawler out there with zero story? I can't think of one. Even Don't Die Minerva had a story, and that was just about a little girl accidentally stumbling upon a haunted mansion and trying to find her way out, which was still more story than this. And in Don't Die Minerva, it has awesome creative enemies, engaging gameplay, permanent buffs after each death to help you progress further, a little bit of story, decent enough graphics and sound, and selling for half the price of this game. Just saying. Anyway, there's absolutely no story here, no dialogue, no anything. So I can't give you any specifics about that at all. All I know is you pick one of three characters, a buddy for that character from one of the leftovers, and then you head out. So with all that plot and story out of the way, let's go into the good and the bad, and as always, we'll start with the good. So the game looks great. In fact, the very first thing I said when I opened up the game was, wow, this looks really cool. So the art style is great. It's got that comic book feel to it. And it's smooth too. The lighting is great, the contrast is great, the detail is great, it looks phenomenal. What about sound and music? Well, there's no voice acting here, but the music sounds pretty good. It's what you'd expect, so that's a good thing. And the sound effects are really on point too. I mean, hearing one blade meet another is awesome here, as are the rest of the sound effects. So its sound quality is top notch. Then you've got the gameplay. Now, the gameplay here is pretty awesome. So it's card-based, right? Y'all should know that, as I mentioned it earlier. I said it was a deck-building game. Anyway, you use cards with turn-based style combat. But what's really cool here is that when you use the cards, your character acts in that moment from whatever the card is telling him to do. And then it goes into slow mode, so that you can pick another combat card, which then turns his attacks into a combo or a chain reaction. And so, while you're picking the cards, the guy continues to act in sync with the cards that you're choosing. It's a really cool design that I've not yet seen in a game. It makes the combat feel less turn-based and more action-y, while at the same time keeping it turn-based in case you need a second to read the card and remember what it does. But don't worry, it hardly even feels turn-based, and it hardly even feels action-y. It's a really good balance. It feels really good, and it was a lot of fun to play. I personally thought it was really cool. But unfortunately, that's all the good that I have to say about this game. So now we're going to go into the bad. The first thing that I hated was the tutorial. It's barely there. It's hidden away in the top right, it forces you to navigate through it rather than just introducing itself at critical moments, and the worst sin of all, it doesn't even teach you everything. The only plus side here is that most things on the screen have a tooltip pop up to explain it, but not everything. By the time I was done playing, I still barely had any idea what I was doing and was only focusing on getting to the end of that one level by any means necessary, because the game simply didn't give me enough information. And I'm not looking for a lot, I just want to know what this is, or what that is, or what that thing there does. Stuff like that, and the tooltips only explain so much. The next thing that made me kind of afraid was the stability. While for the most part the game ran smooth as silk, it did have a few scary instances that made me think my computer was going to break. The game would just suddenly go to black. A black screen. It would hold on a black screen. So damn dark that I thought my PC had shut down. Like the monitor was completely off. What was that about, game devs? And then it had a few stuttering issues. A few issues where it minimized my game without my permission. And combine all these things together and the game has a way of making you afraid, thinking it's about to crash or freeze or break in some other way or maybe even break your computer. Now it is early access, so this can easily and probably will be fixed, but still, I felt I needed to mention it. The very next thing I didn't really like was the lack of story. To me, this was a huge bummer and a really big flaw in the game. Unexcusable. Where is my motivation to keep going? Where's my attachment to these 3 characters? Where's the point of doing this at all? Where's their name? Without any story or explanation, I found myself not really caring about the game in the slightest. Who are we? Why are we here? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? To me, this game needs something even if it's small. Early access? Sure. But still, give me at least a single paragraph of information about who, when, why, how, and what. Otherwise, it's just a shell. A pretty shell, but an empty shell. Another thing that was annoying to me, but also in the positives, was the gameplay. Yeah, the gameplay. Don't get me wrong, it's tons of fun and engaging and addictive, but it's very imbalanced. The enemies hit too hard, the game doesn't heal you enough, it doesn't give you any kind of permanent increase to your character or his allies whenever you lose, so every time you die you start back off at level 1 all over again with no buffs, no advantages, no anything. I only managed to make it to the end of this long level once after almost 2 hours, and the enemies at the end were so damn tough and I had so little life that I was doomed from the start. The game barely gives you any kind of healing, as I mentioned earlier. It doesn't explain enough for you to make any proper strategies with the cards they offer as rewards, and the rewards that you do get that last for the whole level, they're random, and they normally don't offer enough to make you strong enough to be able to beat it. Now, I understand roguelike games being hard and having to start over, that's not the problem here, but playing this a few times, and you're going to quickly realize how imbalanced it is. This clearly needs a rework. Hell, your guard doesn't even work properly. For instance, I've got 20 guard, enemy does 22 damage, so technically I should have only received 2 damage to my health, right? Because I had 20 guard. But nope, I actually received 7 damage to my health. So, do the developers just not know how to use math? Or is it broken? Or am I just missing something here because the game didn't explain it to me? I don't know. So it's kind of super frustrating, more so than it needed to be for a game like this, is what I mean. And the last annoyance is that price. Considering the lack of voice acting, the missing tutorial, the imbalance of the game, the fact it's in early access, the missing plot and lore, the lack of stability, $25 does not justify the great graphics and sound effects. Not in my personal opinion. I don't even know how long the game is, but I'm sure due to its hard difficulty, the price is probably proper for its length, but not for anything else. I think this game should be around $15 to $20 in its current state, and then depending on what's added for its final release, it should jump up $10 to $15. When it's done, this game could easily be worth $30 or $35. But currently, it's worth $20 at most, and that's pushing it. So yeah, honestly, overall, the game is pretty good, but man, it is really showing off that early access with how much is missing or broken. If you love a good roguelike game, then this is the one to watch. But maybe wait for a discount, as it's currently not worth its full asking price. And if you don't really like roguelikes or difficult games, then this just isn't for you, pass on it. This is not an RPG, it doesn't have any depth to it. It's a dungeon crawler without story, plot, character, or anything, so a roguelike. But even compared to other roguelikes, it's still pretty bare. But if what you saw looks interesting and you have some spare money just lying around, then yeah, pick it up. If you like roguelikes, it is a really good one and it's doing something different. So if you want to support it, then yeah, do it. But I would still encourage everyone to leave this game on their wish list and check back on it every few months to see if they've improved any of the things I've pointed out. It's not a bad game, but it's not a good game either. It has the potential to be great, but currently it's just average. So that's all I got for today, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you all again on my next adventure. So until then, I bid you all farewell.